Good morning, Sam here, Really Love Guitars, and you're looking at Murray's Fender Modern Player Telecaster, which has come down for a switch out of some pickups. So some new Texas Loco IronGear single coils and what looks like I'm not sure if this was I can't remember if this was a Seymour Duncan. I don't think it is, but I think this is an IronGear. Well, it says IronGear, I'll take the word for it. IronGear bridge humbucker, and got a whole bunch of new components to go in, and a treble bleed kit. Now, this is a complex beast in terms of wiring. So we have a 5-way switch, and we have a coil split down here, which splits the humbucker. I think that's all it does, actually. There are no push-pulls, I seem to remember, yeah. So what we're going to do on this, well, the reason Murray wants me to change these over, he wants to change, obviously, the tones from the pickups. So that's the first thing. But he also, I think, had some issues with how it was wired, or he'd made a change and it wasn't running correctly in one of the switch positions. Now, I have to say, looking at this as it stands, I can't quite immediately, that's an understatement, I can't immediately diagnose what's wrong with it just by looking at it, because it's actually quite a complex looking pile of wiring under there. So rather than try and pick apart what Murray's changed, if anything, to understand, I mean, I think he complained that one pickup configuration had ended up being very very thin. So it sounds to me like he may just have used the pickup wires the wrong way round. Oops. Anyway, where he could have switched the hot and the negative. And so I did see, I'm not an expert, as I've said many times, in terms of wiring. So I did read somewhere that one of these pickups, I suppose, is already reverse wound polarity, or sorry, reverse polarity. I seem to, anyway, which means if you went and tried to rewire it without knowing that, you would end up with it inversely wound kind of thing. So it may be as simple as that, but that's not going to be kind of primary significance to me. What I've got in front of me is I've got a Fender wiring diagram for this Plus model, and as you can see, what I'm doing now is I'm just doing my best to, for what it's worth, take care of the stuff finish. There's no reason, if you're going to move things like this side to side, they're pretty sharp, some of these, like the switches and so on. Okay, so what I'm going to do, having just a quick look at this, lifting this up, you can see that there's a choice. We're going to replace this metal lidded pickup with a single coil. Now, if we want it to sit through the pick guard, we're going to need to, first of all, we're going to need to extend the pick guard cut out first of all, and then we could have it sitting on screws the same way, and I think I would prefer to do that. So we'll extend this and then add some screw holes so that it can be raised up and down. There's no urgent reason why it has to be put into the body itself, although some people feel picks up more something, I don't know. So anyway, either which way, we've got to cut this larger to get the new single coil through there, so we have to be very careful with measuring that up and cutting it. It's very difficult to do it absolutely precisely. I don't have a means of cutting it to an exact template, but I will obviously mark it up, and we'll go for or extend the width. We'll probably need to bring it that way a little bit so that we don't thin this down anymore. But anyway, so the bottom line is, obviously Murray's got a certain amount of wiring done here as it stands, and if you kind of follow the logic, you're not really going to be able to see this very well. I'll bring it in closer. If you follow the logic, you can see first of all in Murray's wiring we've got yellow is neck, red is middle. So the yellow comes into the third place, right, which is neck, yes. Middle is there, comes into the second position, and first position goes out to the switch, which it does in my Fender diagram. So that's correct, those three things. And then obviously the fourth one, the humbucker, comes straight into the switch, which may not be correctly wired now because Murray's done something to it. Now Murray's got a double pole double throw switch in here, when actually I think the thing only needs a single pole double throw. Is that right? Yeah, single pole double throw. Half of this unit anyway. But he sent me down a replacement, which is the double one again, and you can actually use it for that. It's an on-on, isn't it? Yeah, on-on. So technically, even if it's not wired right, there's excuse me, it's gone into the correct place. It's gone into the switch. But what we've got here is it's interesting, we've got, of the four colours on this, we have just the black going to the pot top, when in fact, or earth I should say, when in fact the black and the green, according to this original Fender wiring diagram, the black and the green should go to earth. And at the moment we've got the green going to the centre lug on this, so there's something a little bit wrong there. But the point is that I'm just tracking it on my diagram, that pot one comes into the middle theoretically. Now he's got it as the white, whereas my diagram shows it as the red. So there's something not right in the wiring of this in the middle here, which could be cause of the problems. Other than that, most of it's probably, the remainder is probably correct. But we've got all of this new stuff to redo it with, just to be on the safe side. So we'll put all this new stuff in. And then what I've done a quick bit of research to see where the it's just a little piece of solder. How very kind of them. Yeah, I don't quite get it if they haven't included the soldering iron. What are you going to do? Anyway, so what we've got down here is the treble bleed, which is a 100. Yeah, so 100, whatever it's described, microfarads, or 102J it's written as. And this goes across the volume pot, jumps across the volume pot. Yeah. So the tone capacitor resistor, so that's a little resistor there. So that just adds into this circuit as a treble bleed on the volume pot. That shouldn't change anything other than the action of the volume pot in terms of tone. So realistically, I think what I need to do is there's no point plugging this all in and trying to find out exactly what it is that Murray's done, because in a way that's not really that important. What I've got is I've got this here, which is the Fender Modern Player Telecaster Plus, which is the one with the switch and the humbucker. So I've got the wiring diagram here, and I've also got it reproduced large on the board with what I've got is my new pickups, which have different colouring, obviously, a different wire colouring, but we also have what appears to be the same colouring, and I should, just for clarity's sake, I guess what I'll do is I'll write on here, we'll call this Fender, presuming it is the original Fender, and we'll call this IronGear. Right, and then what I can do is I can do a little bit of quick online research to see what I had it printed out once before, but there you can get a little, somebody's done a little chart somewhere which tells you how they translate across most of the major brand humbuckers, the colour coordination. Basically, what I'm saying is you can't assume that these are the same, even though they're the same colours. We can't assume. So I've got to need to do a little check. So being utterly thorough, I will do a check on the colours relationships, and I'll have my little box there just to make sure I do that before I start. And then, whoops daisy, coming back on here, as I say, there's not really any point in trying to save anything that's been done. So we've got wiring here, all of which we can reuse because it's all pretty much cut to the right length. So what I would want to do is to start by removing these pickups, desoldering all of this, taking all those components off, replacing it all with the new ones, and getting everything physically into position, which I won't really film because in a way it's a little bit boring. I know I say that I won't film it, and then somebody says, oh, I'm really interested in what you're doing with that one, so maybe I should just film it. Sometimes, I'll be absolutely honest with you, sometimes the reason I don't want to film, it doesn't feel like filming the this wiring stuff, is because I have to work it out in my head as I go through. Not being an electrician or somebody even with experience of you know, working with electronic configurations, so I'm not, as I say, not experienced really in it. So, but I found over time that put that back on. I found over time that as long as I'm very, very careful and methodical, it works out. But I don't claim to know most of what I'm doing. Why? I'm following kind of logic and being as careful as possible. One of the things I've learned the hard way about changing out pickups, particularly single coils, is that they're incredibly fragile, which doesn't surprise you at all when you consider that inside there's these two tiny little strips of copper wire coming out of the bobbin, so they're dead easy to break. So I'm just going to lift out these pickups, and then when I've done that I'm going to desolder them at the other end and put them off to one side. Now this is again, we can recreate this. These are sitting on a little bit of foam. This is sitting on a little bit of foam to make it stay in place, but again I'm able to can borrow that foam and reuse it. Okay, so I'm going to just leave those hold for there, and what I'm going to do is take these off, and once I'm done, then I can get the soldering iron warmed up and be ready to start the uncoupling business. So Murray, if you're interested, I think the thing that you might find is that it's gone wrong at the micro switch, the toggle switch. That's where it's gone mostly wrong. What I'm also going to do while I'm at it, I'm just going to cover up the rest of this because I don't need to see the paintwork at all for now. I'll just cover it up for peace of mind's sake while I'm working on the electrics. And you know, somebody once in a video challenged me and said, you don't need that much masking tape, you fool. And I pay £1 a roll for my masking tape, and if £1 can give me peace of mind, even if I use the whole roll, if £1 gives me peace of mind, then it's a small price to pay. There you go, that's the end of that roll. Okay, so next stage then is to okay, this is a rolling mill IronGear, so that's okay. Let me just get my head around this. Murray, you might be kind of pulling your hair out now because you may be wanting me to keep this rolling mill, and you may be telling me that the one that's in the box over there is in fact the Fender. Okay. I'll go back to our email, trust me, and I'll reread it and make sure I know what the hell I'm talking about. Oh, sorry, our Facebook message. I think that's obviously the case. This will be the original Fender then. I can tell because it's been pulled off once already. Okay, that's the Fender pickup. This is the replacement, the rolling mill, which is the bridge position IronGear. Very nice. And we've got same wiring, colours. Right, okay, so that's fine. I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure that's what's happened. So sorry if you were panicking up to this point, Muzz. Didn't mean to freak you out. I do read the instructions eventually. Okay, we still need to take it off, so it's going to be unhooked. And then what we've got inside of there, the other things we've got happening is we've got the hot and the earth from the jack plug, which comes through to the volume pot. We've got an earth that goes to the conductive material here. And then we have an earth that comes from the bridge through and ground that comes from the bridge and grounds to the top of the pot. So those are the other extraneous ones. This conductivity is complete all the way through because there's a continuous cover of this paint throughout these. There's only one small bridge or tunnel, if you like, but the rest of it's all touching, so it doesn't need kind of multiple hookups of earth, shielding earths, shall we say. Okay, so these are originally alpha pots in here. And what have we got in replacement? They're not, no, the alpha, I don't know. They're CTS, I think. So, okay. Right. And are these screwed on? These are screwed on, so they'll come off in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to drink my tea, leave this as it is for a minute, and then come back and heat up the soldering iron and unhook everything. Right, so just pick it back up. I've just jumped ahead. Dremel. You won't be able to see it very well from there. So I'm using the Dremel. I've marked the thing, and I've scored down the bottom edge, but I'm using the Dremel, which I've gently worked its way in. And you can see I'm just, excuse me, I'm just wearing this down. Now I'm going to go down close to the line, and then I'm going to do my very best to smooth it out. It's quite difficult to do it exactly, but I'm going to do my best. Again, you're not got a very good view. I'm so sorry. Well, that didn't help because what it did was took away my guide drawing, so I need to just redraw that bit in. That was annoying. I scuffed the top of it there. So if I just go back here, back to square one. Sorry, it's the lousiest view in the world. Just getting the news in on the various radio channels. Not radio, but apps and news apps and whatnot, that Bruce Forsyth has died. What a great old entertainer he was. I think I've lost my way a little bit. Oh Lord. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark this off here like that. Mark off my what's it points. Wrong glasses again. No, right glasses. Okay. work that well, but that's not too bad. So I can sort of see where I am. Just going to cut this away a bit. Just hopefully give me a bit of a better view on where I've currently got to. Where I'm aiming for. Okay. So I'm going to continue with my danger it pops through if I'm not careful. So again, it's getting there. It's just a little harder than I would like, especially this top edge, and it's also causing this to come undone, which isn't much good. So we'll try and keep it locked, get some purchase on it, as they would say. Difficult to see what's going on here underneath the paper. So really, I'm going to get rid of the loose bits of paper if we can, as soon as we can. So I'll try and do. Yeah, so old Bruce Forsyth. I remember him. First time I think I saw him in something was probably when bed knobs and broomsticks. You can see we're getting there, build up a bit of stuff. Now what we can do at this point in the game is we can use the blade to kind of clean things up a little bit. With a bit of luck we can also, if we need to, do a bit of sanding. This is just beginning to cut into it. Never going to be, excuse me, never going to be perfect without factory setup. Okay, so we're starting to get towards the right size, but we're not there yet. A little bit more at this end. Difficult now. I think we've run out of, there's not a lot of leeway. So I can basically, I'm just aiming to get this wide enough now to get this through and to do it in a way that evens up the distance to the drill holes. if necessary we can always just make sure we can get a measurement on that. So we're currently at 3.4, and that's a little bit larger on that side. Very small adjustments. It's not perfect. We have to go in with a little bit of sandpaper or something just to level this out. Funny enough, I've tried this before with a blade. The blade removes it, but it follows the contours. So if you've got a bit of a, what's the word, a bit of a wobble going on, the blade will unfortunately exaggerate it, which is slightly doing there. That's just a little bit of adjustment by eye, really. Not available just now, Pa. So we're not far. Excuse me, we're not far off. Just going to mark up the end piece again, so we can see what the overhang is. So I've got a bit more to do at this end. Quite there, but getting there. As I say, it's never quite as exactly the same shape as the original, but we can try. A bit more at this end. Nearly there. So you can see it's not looking bad. It's never perfect. It's almost impossible to get that curve exactly the way you want it. Now the alternative, as I said, is to get a file and be just a little bit of flattening. It's difficult because it doesn't want to stay still very much. In a way it does, it can flatten it out a little bit, which improves the look. And we can just do the edges a little bit. So we'll get there, Nearly there. Again, we'll check out the holes. A bit more down the bottom here, or a bit more in this direction. What I'll do is I'm also going to use the line I've drawn here and mark again. So you can see this is just fiddly. There's nothing too clever about it. Just using sort of eyeballing technique, really. Okay, so I can see the amount I've got to go there, and I can pretty much see the amount I've got to go here. Pretty much there, so a little bit further on this one. Yeah, it looks pretty nice actually. We're almost there, smidgen either side. Notice I'm putting the thing in first and starting it up and then bringing it to bear. It's not perfect on the top corner there. We're about to whiz through. See this bottom corner down here needs a little bit of extra curvature in it. Really. So you can see it's just a matter of keep on at it, very tiny movements each time. So it's that's very snug. So we aren't there yet. Tiny bit in this left hand corner again. That looks okay. We are a fraction of a millimetre from being on target. So again, just looking at both ends, we'll do a smidgen at either end. Looks alright. And we are just on, see? That's okay at that end. I want a tiny bit more in this corner just to loosen it off. And that's nigh on just about good enough. It's probably a little bit fatter than it needs to be. It's always the way. It's quite difficult to keep it in a straight line. Some bit of extra sticking up there. Right, that really is close as I'm going to get this in real life. Oh, yeah, no, that's fine. And then the only thing the next thing I need to concern myself with is getting the drill holes through in just the right position so they don't go too far, because they're very close. It's extremely easy to go all the way through. Feels about right. Yeah, that's not bad at all actually, considering it's done by hand. A little tiny bit of thinning out here. Basically just sort of cleaning off any little coils that I need to. That pretty much should be the lot. Now, as I say, it isn't perfect, but it's not bad. And it fits this thing dead on. Right. Woo. Okay, that was that done. I can't remember who was it that asked me. Was it Phil that asked me how I was going to do that? Well, that's how I done that. So I think I'm probably going to need a bit of a tidy up and a clean up before I move on to the next bit of the game, which is, it's going to be the drill thing. Now, the drill thing is very, very tricky-ish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a similar thing. I'm going to line up some masking tape like this, and the secret is going to be making similar holes without going through. so we have let's move that for a minute. We have, well, do we have dead centre? I think as soon as you've got some foil here, it's really hard to see what's going on because it kind of, there you go, dead centre. It glares at you all the time. Let's try and get a dead centre on this one as well. Glaring. That's about right. Dead centre on there. Kind of just about dead centre on there. Okay, so this gives me, again, I can use a similar eye, just using judging by eye because I'm quite good at gauging similar widths. So I can run this all the way up to here like that, across the centre of that one, and vice versa, or to the side I should say. And that gives me my centre line start point really. Actually it's not entirely accurate because this piece of masking tape isn't completely straight, it bends, but hey, that's my thing. Now we need the screw in the middle point of this, so what I'm going to do again is I'm just going to draw a top and a bottom line close as I can get it. Again, working with this is a bit odd, the light's reflecting all over the place, but that gives me a sort of reasonable top and bottom line to work from, and then I can measure. That's going 1750 and that's actually about the same. So half of 1750 is, what's 18, half 18 is 9, it's 8.75, right? No, 8.5 is 17, 8.5 is 17, 8.75, yeah, so let's go 8.75. 8.75, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, halfway mark. 8.75, didn't I say? Okay, there's enough. So I'm just going to go along from, let's make my start point here, and there's my middle point. And likewise, there's my middle point again. So I know now where I'm going to come in from the front, and the tricky part now of that is obviously I'm going to need to drill something in a way that, well, let's see, what's the diameter of the hole? That's the other thing I could work out here. The diameter of the hole, let's look at the diameter of the hole here. Let's look at it from the easy to read side. The diameter of this hole is, it's about 3.5 actually. 3.5. Okay, so what I want is a 3.5, that's a 4.5. Can you get me a 3.5? There you go. No, that's 4.5 too. Alright. Oh, excuse me, my box of things. Now, this is a tricky bit of doing this without it going through. Sorry, I can allow this to go through. My 3.5 needs to go through. That's the fact. So I get myself a piece of block. The first thing I can do is literally, I might actually punch it and see if that will do any good. But I'm going to make myself a little punch hole here. Let's go back and try that again. And on the other side, I'm not hitting it too hard because obviously it's not a lot of strength in that area. Okay, so there's my start point on the other side. I've got my 3.5, and all I want to do is, once I've drilled 3.5, gone all the way through, I then want to just widen it out on top to give it a kind of counter sink. There you go, there's my 3.5 hole. Spin it round. a look. Oh, looking pretty good. Now the next part of it is we'll get our countersink, and this is always the tricky bit. If you're not careful, you can always go too far, or you can go too far. This is obviously for countersunk things. So equally, or again, this is where I'm in the dark now. Okay, and I can just see it by eye. How's that looking? Still not as much. How's that looking? I think that's going to do. Okay, so just looking at it, it's not quite as big as the other one, so I could be risky. Add a slight bit more. That looks exactly like the others. And then again onto this side. I'm nearly there in one go. Yeah. Okay. I think that's not bad at all. These screw holes don't line up. They're about 1/2 millimeter. Actually, they're not as wide, so that's what's throwing it out. They're about on the mark there. It'll be a fraction bigger. Right, I stop. Quit while you're ahead. Okay. So I'm going to put that to one side. Very pleased with that. So that's how I do it. Sort of making it up as I go along. Combination of things. A bit of file, a bit of countersink, a little bit of blade. Just whatever it takes to work, but doing it really carefully so that we don't ever let it get away from us, because we're on the, we're in that sort of space where you can't put any back on. Well, you can, but it involves buying another pickguard, which is a pain. So it's about measuring things and sinking things through. So I'm pleased with that. So I think what I'm going to do is just tidy this all up for a minute, go off camera, come back when I'm ready to start reassembling the control plate and the basic components on there, but I don't obviously need all of this junk in the way for that. So I'll see you, excuse me, see you in a minute. Hey, I've jumped the gun a bit, I've cheated, I'm ever so sorry. I forgot I got stuck into this without really, anyway, okay, so I'm busy completing this little department here, and I've got a little undoing to do. Yeah, this is a little bit, well, it's a little bit different from the original. What I've done, I'm just going to get in here, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in here and unhook this thing here, throw it away, and I want to, really, I want to get this, so I've got to get this out. Let's just do that first. Let's get the pliers. Yeah, so what I'm doing a slightly different thing here. Funnily enough, the wiring diagrams that came, just get out of the way, will you? Wiring diagrams that came with this, or that pertain to the Tele Modern Player Plus, a bit indecipherable. I'm slightly confused about them, so I don't really know. I was struggling a bit to work out how to achieve what we wanted, but what I've done is I've kind of gone back. I've settled on doing this, getting these. I can't make this move now. Getting this to getting this new humbucker in, but also at the same time I'm going to. I've changed over and I've used a 3-position switch instead of just the 2, and so instead of just having a coil split, what I've done is I'm going to give Muzz a coil split and a series parallel switch using a 3-position switch. I can't get this damn thing in here because it's a bit worn out and gungy. So yeah, it's kind of not complicated exactly, but it's actually simpler because I found a better description for how to do this than I found on how to do the simpler inverted commas task. So so I've settled for that, which I think will be a better solution. So I've just got to get this thing in here if I can. It's all extraordinarily fiddly. There we have it. Get me some solder on there. You're struggling to see anything at this range, but so I want to get this on here, and then you go. That'll do. Sticking out a fraction further than I would like, but that's okay. Just did a little test to make sure it was working, and it was. So I'm going to put an extra bit of solder on here. I could loosen off an existing one, but it might just take so much longer to do, so I'm just going to add an extra bit on here if I can. Come on. There we go. Sorry. And then pull this over, and then we are, as far as I can see, we're all hooked up, present and correct. I'll just get this out of the way to allow me to get in there. Sorry, I'm getting in your way again. Get on there. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to go double check bits that need cutting off, like this. So that's to there, to there, to there. Now what I can do now is bend that over to there, get that out of the way. Now, I don't really quite know yet is what happens to all of this once I turn it upside down, so that's the bit that's hard to predict. Got the earth to the earth, everything's earthed, good. Right, in which case I better get off this stuff before I shut the control plate on it. This is the really annoying part of guitar wiring in my book, is that you can't see what goes on next, so you sort of have to push everything under, and you're hoping for a nice fit without any major incidents along the way. As you can see, it's a very congested little arrangement, so I would say that right this second this isn't sitting very comfortably. Now it could be because we've got this darned thing on there, so maybe we can bend that backwards that way. Didn't want to have to do that, but I'm going to. There we go, that's the capacitor getting in the way, and then we've got a bit more movement to go this way. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm just going to do a quick test on this. So we've got neck, middle, and bridge, and then we've got bridge, middle position, both coils, series, parallel, or the other way around. I can't remember which it is, I'll find out afterwards. So that, in my book, is time to shut up the patient, as it were. Needs a little bit of dusting and cleaning up. It's been handled a lot, obviously, but if we can just get it into place. Now it's got a little bit of resisting going a certain direction, so it may be a little bit too much wire getting in the way on the side. So again, I'm just going to try that again. There we go, that's better. sort of little struggle down this side here, so it could be, I don't think it's anything other than a wire there possibly. Okay, let's get this in here. And then get this out of the way. That's not very good, is it? In there like that. Okay, and then we're just on mark. So there we have it. Ooh. So I'm going to hang this out of the way, knowing that it works, because time for a clean up. And after the clean up, we get to do setup stuff. Now, that may appear to you to have been a quick process. It wasn't. That took a lot of looking at diagrams and figuring things out. So hopefully though it'll give a nice functionality. And basically I've used both sides of the switch, which the original setup wasn't going to do, but I'll get rid of all this stuff now. Yeah, so that's good. I can also put the switch tip on there as well. Got knobs to go back on at some point. There we go. Lovely. Right, so I'll see you in a minute. Well, just a quick check-in. This is slipping a bit because I'm almost on no. I put old strings back in the these hip shot tunery things, so they're barely holding on to the top E. But anyway, what we've got is it's quite interesting. We've got powerful humbucker in the down position. We've got, so that's that's series humbucker. Right at the top is parallel, and it's difficult to hear it actually. Probably on you can hear the difference, but what you can't hear so much the difference is the single coil, which is in the middle. So anyway, there is a difference, but it's very, very subtle. But anyway, it does what I wanted it to do, which is fine. So that's that bit out of the way. I'm just going to give it, I'll check the action and check everything and give it a setup, clean, and put some new strings on it, because these now are weakened, so they won't do very well. It has a little bit of fret wear since the last time I saw it, so sounds to me like Murray's been playing, well, he says he's been playing it a lot acoustically, and you can see it's starting to get some wear back on the frets. But I'm going to replace with a set of 11s, and we'll have a new set of 11s on there, and give it a sort of an all over clean. I've got a little bit of paper stuck down there, so I need to lift that off. And also I'm going to want to raise up pickups as well, because at the moment they're a little bit low, so we can give them some bite. I'm going to do a bit of lifting up with the humbucker as well. Okay, this is quite movementable, and you probably might put a little bit of foam in the front there just to pull this into sort of position. I think one of the reasons why one of the reasons it might be hard to hear the difference in the single coil option is because it might need, because it's tilting forward so much. But actually, yeah, maybe that's, yeah, it's true. You switch off the coil that's not making much effect anyway, because it's sitting quite a long way forward. Okay, have a quick look at that. There we go. Right, so yeah, I'm going to just check the action on everything, and then get some new strings in and make sure it's all set up as well as it can be. I'm not going to go into a big fret level to save on save on money. It's already, we did it previously when I saw this guitar a time before. It was difficult. This was quite a challenge. It was a refret because the previous person had completely ruined all of the frets that existed there. But I'm just gonna really, well, the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to check and make sure the electrics are playing the way I wanted, and that's the case. So I'm happy with how it's all hanging at the moment. I'm going to check the action and just make a couple of small adjustments. If I can find where my bits go on the floor. Okay, the relief. I think the relief was okay, if I recall. Yep. We're exactly on 1.5 down there, and just on 1.5 on these. So I would say these are the top ones are a little higher than I would go, but it may be we're constrained, and it may not be possible to get it down any further. So we'll see what we've got. 1.2, too low. Somebody made a comment the other day, or sometime on YouTube, about, oh, you must never, make adjustments like this with the string under load, because those little grub screws will be grinding their way into the base plate. You're kind of thinking, well, yeah, sort of. The 11s are heavy duty, they tax my poor wee fingers. I kind of like the idea of being able to play them. I feel it's a very manly thing. I should be able to switch out and play with 11s, but I mean, these are pretty new. It's a shame in a way to take them off, but I think we have to, because the thing with locking tuners, and I've said this loads of times, but as soon as you get locking tuners, they crimp the string in such a harsh way that you don't get a second go at restringing. So in this case I took the strings off to do the work and then put the strings back on to check how it plays, and so on and so on. You don't get a second chance at it. You have to exchange them. When I string it, I build in the option of a little bit of extra, or one more time taking on and off, by actually threading through and winding a little more than you technically need on such a thing as these locking tuners, because obviously they're designed to pretty much pull through and go, hence the locking thing. But like I said, I tend to go through, pull back a little bit, and that little extra bit of wind amazingly gives me a get out later on. For example, it would give Muzz a chance to take these strings off once and put them back on once. Beyond that, you're probably a bit too crimped again to be any good, but having at least one sort of opportunity to do that is not bad. So this is set pretty much how it was before, just a little bit lower. I just dropped it a tiny bit lower on the high notes. While it's off, I'm just going to give it a clean all over. It's difficult to keep these things spotlessly clean because they're such high gloss everywhere. And this was a guitar that it was a shame because it had such a tough start in terms of, I don't know if you remember seeing the video, but Murray bought it fairly new, and somebody had worked on the frets, and the guitar wouldn't play very well. And when I had a look at it, the frets were absolutely hammered out of existence. They've been levelled flat, and they were still uneven, and they were still not playing without, they wouldn't play without buzzing. So the bottom line is, my decision or my advice was, there was no point in trying to hammer them fret level them anymore, because they were so marginal to begin with. It would have just been, well, it just would have, there would have been nothing left basically by the time we'd got them fret leveled and playing straight, which seemed like a really a real shame. I'm just going to, there's 2 more screws here, but I'm just going to take off that humbucker for a second just so I can remove the bit of masking tape behind it, and then I'll screw the other things in. Yeah, so the decision at the time was to, tiny little bit of paper here, decision at the time was to refret it, and the real problem with refretting one of these Fender Modern Players and or classic vibes, they're very similar. The difficulty in refretting these is that they have such brittle lacquer, which is very, very beautiful, but it really doesn't tolerate refretting very easily, or taking the nut off, or practically anything you might want to do, and it's prone to cracking very, very easily. And so as a result, there are some cracks here and there. Even, for example, putting frets in, it's almost impossible to put the frets in and clamp and press them without occasionally getting little hairline cracks in the lacquer, because it's so delicate. I say it's a real pity that, but it's the way it is. So anyway, what I was aiming for was, you know, to get a guitar that played, because Murray had, I think, kind of lost faith in being able to play this, really. So, and then in the intervening period, he's played it a lot acoustically. But what I think happened is he went to change the Fender pickup out for this IronGear one. While I'm at it, I'm going to cut a little piece of foam. So yeah, he changed out the pickup for an IronGear pickup, and in doing so, I think he got the polarity, or he got the wiring a bit wrong, and as a result, it didn't play very well. So I think he's kind of retired it for a bit. Okay, so it's not the most ideal thing in the world, but I'm going to put a piece of foam in here because I want to keep this thing a bit more upright than it is. So anyway, so having had it sat around, probably just being played acoustically for some time, Murray's sent it back down and taken the opportunity to switch out the pickups and put some new ones in. Okay, let's just have a feel how this is. Possibly a bit thick, a bit ugly too. It's a shame. Difficult to do. I mean, I could aim for putting a pad underneath, right, directly underneath, but I can't guarantee, I can't gauge instantly as how thick it is. But we could get a pad, make up a pad that sits directly under there. Quite a load of this foam. It comes with new pickups every time you get some. So really, what this would need would be some foam underneath that pickup at the front. So let's just have a feel while we can. Let's have a look and see what's possible. Now this is just a temporary thing. I'm just going to push that in there for a second and sit that back down and see. It sits too high. So unless we can thin this down a bit, maybe we can. It's not the easiest stuff in the world to play with, but not the hardest as well. So if it works, I might just then double-sided sticky tape this in place. moving in this shed worry me. Let's put that there. It moves. I don't really want to, I'm doing this because I don't particularly want to put I don't want to put stuff in front of the pickup where you can see it. So now I'm just going to try this again. 2 full bits. See if that does work. It didn't work a minute ago, but it might work again. That's what I feel. That sits up. It needs to follow the contour, the line of the pickup casing, really. That's just a fraction too big. So let's take the it should work. That's too big and then that's too small. I'm gonna go with that. So what I'll do, I'll throw a load of tape on the floor. I'm just gonna get 2 bits of sticky tape. There. And I'm going to stick a bit on there like that. Cut along there like that. And then, damn it's sticky. Right. And I'm going to cut that along there, like that, that along there, like that. So, oh, darn. And again, oh, what is going on? I'll use this one instead. And then I'm going to put this bit of sticky on there, cut it off like that. Like that. And the idea eventually is then to pull the protective sticky off both sides and put one on flat on the bottom, and I'll do the first one and stick the second pad onto it anyway. That's the whole clever idea. Just there we go, sticky, full size pad, put that there like that. Clumsy. I'm going to get a sticky exposed on here. Yep, really handy stuff, this double-sided sticky tape. I'm going to take that out of there. I'm going to plop that down somewhere in the middle, shove that on there like that, and that sits much better. Hooray! And it's only foam and it can pull out when you don't want it and chuck it away, or if you change pickups. It's handy, so it's just not tilting forward as much as it was. Right, so put these back in. And basically I'm going to restring and stretch. This looks to me like it really wants to have black screws, but then again it sort of feels like it should have black screws all the way throughout. Okay, there we go. It's got a lot of wobble on it, this thing. But anyway, the point is to stop it falling too far forward. It tilts forward more than it goes anywhere else. It doesn't cure the wobble, but it stops it disappearing out of the way. Okay, so we get our 48s now. Let's get this bit done. So we're going to through string through, and So everything, just thinking through logically, apart from a final polish down once we're done, everything is pretty much done. A little bit of extra functionality, like I said, partly because I saw it when I was looking for wiring explanations of how I would do this switch exactly. I found a version that was just very clearly explained actually, and some of the other ones that would have, I could have got away with a double pole, I could have got away with an on-on switch, instead of which I've used an on-on-on, and so I've added one layer of onness. But the reason I ended up doing that is kind of because the diagram, that the explanation in the diagram that the chap had was just more confidence inspiring than some of the others that I was looking at, so I just in the end went with that and figured that actually for the same, you know, for having we've got a switch in there, it doesn't take any bigger footprint, and it just means that we have that extra bit of functionality thrown in, and I have a confidence of knowing that it will work, which isn't often the case when you're looking around for wiring diagrams. There are so many out there, and any of you done any of this stuff at any time, you'll know that sometimes more of your time is spent trying desperately to find a dependable wiring diagram than it is actually wiring things. So again, on these locking tuners, I go up here and I come back about a finger's worth before I lock them off right thoroughly, and then I'll come back to, I can wind them on first, and I'll wind them on, and it gives me that little extra to play with if I need to take them off again and rewind them, which I wouldn't have if I'd have just grabbed them straight off with the crimping mechanism. So I'll do this, I'll stretch these strings out, tune it all up, and double check the intonation. Should be alright. Let's see any reason why it's moved, but double check it anyway. And then just make sure these slots are functioning properly. You know, there's no pings or grabbing anywhere. I noticed that Murray's lost or removed one of the string trees. I'm not sure why particularly. String trees are probably best not to have them if you don't need them. They only increase friction, which catches the string and holds them, and sometimes can cause mild tuning instability. So, and if you absolutely don't need them, get rid of them. That's my advice. So nearly there, and yeah, with a bit of luck we'll get this finished tonight, and I'll hold on to it I think for a day and aim to get it in the post or in the courier on Tuesday. I'm trying to learn the discipline of slowing down a bit to make sure that things are the way I want them before I send them on. Not many, but a couple of occasions in the past where I've rushed to get something back to people, and you may find a small change in the truss rod setting. I don't think, obviously I haven't adjusted it here, so we won't see any change, but sometimes something changes and it's not the way you want it to be, and then the customer doesn't get a perfect guitar. So okay, so those are the 11s on board. I've got the packets. Snip off the extra. Cut it really flush so we don't get any chance of being stabbed. Right. obvious sort of stretching, gets the first sort of easy pile of slack out of it, and then the sort of good old-fashioned thorough thumb and forefinger stretching, which is the only surefire way to get rid of all the slack that are in these strings. And it just doesn't work to tune them up sharp and leave them overnight, and hopefully that the guitar will somehow settle with all the slack miraculously eked out of the strings. It just doesn't work. You'll be able to tune it, that's not the point. The point is it will go out of tune when you bend a note, or if you had a tremolo on it, the minute you touch the tremolo. And you know, that's one of the reasons why loads of people say tremolo doesn't work on their guitar, and they ask for it to be locked off. Yeah, so it just won't release that slack, and it will only do it by a sort of physical method. And you know, if you want to prove it to yourself, go and get a guitar that you've had for ages. One that, assuming you haven't done this process, go and get one that you think is stable, that you haven't stretched to death. Right? No point going and getting one that you have in one way or other stretched to death, because then you're not proving anything. But go and get one that you haven't stretched to death. You might have stretched it a little bit at the start, but you thought that's it, settled down, and you carried on and played it. Go and get one of those and go and grab the string and give it a huge pull upwards and watch it go out of tune. You may want to tell yourself it's because the tuners came unwound or something moved down there. It isn't. It's because your strings still have unreleased slack in them. It's the only reason they go out of tune. Like that. Nearly there. G. G's pinging. So is B. G and B are pinging, so it means I'm going to move aside their strings and give them a little bit of sand out with a 600 piece of 600 grit and a blade. Am I still? No, what's hot? It's that thing that's hot. Whew. So whenever you're working on your tuning up, doing slack in your strings, if you hear a ping on your slots, you want to get in there with a piece of sandpaper and a blade, if that's the right size. Just get in there and just widen the slots. That's all you have to do. And then with the B, it's a thinner one, so I'm going to switch over to the blade part. Just just get in there, and I don't want to. I want to try not to go down any further in the slot. More than anything, I just want to go from side to side and widen it a bit if I can. And we drop the strings back in. Listen again as we tune up. And the pinging is gone. Okay, so a little bit more pulling and I think we'll be pretty much there. What I will do is put a little bit of graphite back under the in the nut slots as a final act of lubrication. See? Didn't move at all. Ping. Tiniest bit. What I think I'm hearing actually is a tiny bit of a ping that happens on this damn string tree. I hate them for that reason. Even these sort of roller ones, they don't really stop the strings pinging. So I'm going to put a little bit of graphite in there if I can even vaguely locate my graphite pot, which of course I can't. This is mad. I have one thing in which the graphite lives and then it gets lost. Right, I'm going to have to put some, okay. That's where, right, I'll stick some in the corner of this. It's just hopeless. I never keep the same container for graphite because I always lose it. So I'm just going to pick a little bit up there. Pretty much done then. So a little bit of lubricant in there. I've said this loads of times, but I will say it again. If you have problems with the strings pinging, it's first and foremost more than likely going to be the nut slot itself needing widening, as I just did. If that's done, then the next source of pinging could be the string trees, which is quite common anyway, because they're just not a very good design. But wherever you have pinging from, you've got to do whatever you can to eradicate it using the sandpaper widening method first. Then once you've done that, when you're sure that your strings are actually running smoothly through the slots, then you add some graphite as a final lubricant. Don't do it before. It won't cure. If you try and do it as a cure for your pinging strings, it'll just kind of wait until it's worn away, and then you'll have the problem back again. It'll act as a temporary lubricant, and actually it won't really work anyway, because the string gripping the slot is a very powerful and disruptive thing, and it is what contributes almost entirely to the instability, tuning instability. Sorry, half and half. Half is the unreleased slack in the string, and the other half is the nut slots. Beautiful, I'm done. I'm going to switch it over for this one. I've got to do something else. So that's Murray's Modern Player Telecaster, done with change of pickups, installation of a different three-way switch, giving him humbucker in series, humbucker in parallel, and split coil, single coil there. And actually the one that the one that doesn't, I can't remember which one doesn't sound massively impressive. I think it's the parallel one, but it gives you a nice high powered humbucker, which is what you want. Okay, so I'm just looking at this. I'm thinking it's pretty much done. I might have a look at this. The position of the strings a little bit off on the this side, a bit too close to that edge, so I might just loosen it off afterwards. But for now, that's done. Okay, so I'll see you again. Okay, just a quick check-up or check-in. I've repositioned the neck by snacking off 3 of the 4 of the bolts, but 3 of them very much and the last one a little bit, and I've pulled the neck into a slightly different alignment, so we've got an absolute straight down the line, straight down the middle alignment. It's right over the pickups too, which everything looks and feels good. I've also tweaked the action a tiny little bit to get rid of any last buzzes or hints of buzz. I lowered it a little bit and it was a bit too low, but as it stands right now, happy. Okay, so it's going to go inside its box any minute now, and leave it for a day, give it a test play tomorrow, and then we can have it heading back to Murray up in Scotland. So there we go. Fender Modern Player Telecaster. New pickups, modified strat pickup in the neck, 2 IronGear pickups I should say, modified pickguard, iron rolling mill, IronGear, 3-way switch. Yeah, there you go. Done and dusted. Sounding great, playing great, ready to go home. There you go. Brand new set of 11s on there as well, so all good. Hey, pleased that worked out. Not like I was worried it wouldn't or anything.